Hey YouTube, I'd like to break down the processes I go through and the software I use to get my 3D prints looking great. So stick with me and I'll see you on the other side. G'day and welcome to the A Creative channel where we like to invest in creating cool things. So I thought this would be a good video for problem solving. To do with modeling in 3D and then trying to 3D print it. So I just received my frozen wax-like castle resin, and the conception is to be able to print many small miniature models, which then we're going to cast into other in metals, into bronze and silver, and so the conception was being able to print many models, and right now working on him at a larger scale, which will be molded, and then from that mold we're going to cast it in wax, and then pour it into investment plaster, each individual piece, and then practically cast it into metal, silver, bronze, and whatever else that will be fun and cool to work with. So I'm in the process right now of shrinking him down. So on the bed plate, I plan to have be able to fit at least four for each print, and then the Ananta Shesh, that the snake like figure that will sit behind him, and print out another four exactly the size. So I'm in the process of combining him. I've joined them together, and then I'm going to transform them. And the cool thing about Mesh Mixer is that actually I'll cancel that, it doesn't look like this and this join, so I'm going to combine that as well. Yeah, I want to see your blue tire. Sorry, I'm going to have to pause the streaming, or cut that out. Where is your blue tire? Anyway, I will cut that out, edit it out, and come back to this. So, so I'm combining everything, shrink them all down, and you should be able to be printed in one print in wax-like resin, and that is the coolest part. I'm going to show the whole process and how I do this and how I go about this, and the end result, all the way up to the casting in the metals, which should be quite fun. I don't know if it'll be one video in total or a series of video, most likely a series. What the issue I have and the problem solving, it's not that big of a problem. He's just been combined. So now what I would do, just to give you an example, right, I'm going to now shrink him down about yay big. We're going to see what size he's at. So he's about 46 millimeters. I do believe is at the x-axis that is on the top. So 46, 69, 69 wide and 35 millimeters that way. So practically, I'm going to have four of him, pretty much on the bed and ready to print. And that's going to be cool because four is going to come out that size, and then we're going to, cast them in, investment plaster, burn them out, burn the wax out, and then pour practically the metal to replace his empty silhouette. So that's quite exciting. I'm quite excited to do this. I'm just going to cancel that because I've got to bring in some other weapons that go with them, and that is the problem that I'm solving right now. And this sword is way too thin. Handle's great, we'll have no issues printing, but this right here in itself, the blade is way too thin. So I need to be able to thicken out this blade. And there's a few processes that I can try, right, to get this blade. But one of those processes, is the conception of destroying your mesh. So right now this mesh is printable, it's great, it works fine, but once again it's too thin to print. So we're going to go and do something a little funky here. I'm going to select the brush, select that's an inflate brush, and we're going to try to build this up with inflate. See what it does? That just destroys everything about the model itself. We're going to try turning it down, and this is where the problem solving. But look at all the details vanishing. Like, you want to be able to keep those details in there, right? But it's going to be a bit hard doing that. So I can do this and then resculpt those details back in it, which is more than a possibility. But the conception of making this thicker is the most important aspect. And even down here, like, we want to thicken this up a little bit in here, and you can see some of those details are starting to vanish in there, and we're going to have to come back in and resculpt this. But you see, the issue is that this is not a sculptable mesh anymore. It's a triangulated mesh to make the size of the file smaller. So in one of my last videos I was describing I was describing the Dynamesh qualities of Zbrush, and I'm sure many people had no idea what I'm talking about here. So I'm going to show that process here and why that's such an awesome aspect. So I can see it's a little uneven there, so I'm just going to try and even out the blade, and then I'm going to smooth it out. But the intensity of the brush is too much again. This might help bring out some details again, or help me see those original details I had put in there by smoothing it out, and help me add it in a little later. So resculpt them back in. Well, at the end of the day, what you have to think about in 3D printing is that a lot of this stuff is not going to be seen. Like, it just won't be. Like, once it's printed up, it just, I'm really liking that thickness, and I think that's going to have no issues in printing now. This is something really to keep in mind when you are creating models, and that's the biggest issue I had with this model, is that I never really built it in a way that it was designed to be 3D printed. So I've had to come back in and really, work it out. So there's a feature down here, okay, and we're going to go into geometry, and then from geometry we're going to go into Dynamesh. Now Dynamesh, makes your mesh pretty much more like sculptable again. It just produces a million different quads, and those quads are capable of catching high detail. And it's also capable of repairing, holes and damages that are maybe in your mesh. And inflating something like this inside, it's just destroyed the triangulation of all of this. See all these little triangles, by inflating it, they've all now crushing on each other. They're all, they're no longer, I don't know if I go to mesh integrity and I check mesh. It's saying it's okay, but I will guarantee that it probably isn't. So I'm going to go into Dynamesh, and I'm going to Dynamesh it. I've done it at a high resolution because I'm hoping it maintains all the details that I originally sculpted in there. And that was pretty quick. I'm pretty happy with that. So now if we look at the mesh, you'll see it's turned into a million tiny little quads, And now if I was to, you know, sculpt on this again, pick standard, and if I was to, you know, you look at that, you know, I would be able to go back in here and put all these details back in. So, and then every time I swish this mask over it, the Zbrush, the Dynamesh reactivates and resets it in so I can rebuild it. But instead of doing that, because it's captured that in, I'm going to go into deformation, and under deformation we have polish by features, polish crisp edges. So I'm going to polish by features until it maybe might capture all those details again. So, you know, it's just trying to avoid doing the work that I've already once done, and save some time. And if I can manage to just keep some of those details that I've put into this sword, and you know, in 3D printing, it's not going to be a big issue. You know, I'm pretty happy with that. I think that's more than fine for the 3D printer. I don't think it's going to capture much more than that, but I do feel like the sword's been a bit wonky now due to the inflation of it. So I'm going to try and correct this. That looks pretty good. So there's a feature called backface masking. You can use it on individual brushes. This helps not destroy the other side as you work on one side, especially with thin meshes and thin objects that are here. So I'm going to look at that and see. That's out. Okay, and you know, I think that's good. I think at the end of the day, once this is 3D printed, the details are going to be there enough. Are going to be there enough, and I think that's thick enough. So I think I'll capture it. I'm really liking the detail on the hands. The blade, I think it's just fine. You know, I would like to really thin out this edge to make it look like a sword, but this is the thing with 3D printing. You have to consider the reality of it being able to withstand and hold up. You can't make things too thick. So I'm going to Dynamesh that one more time by swiping. That was very quick, so I'm going to make sure the Dynamesh is still on. It's still on. And then Zbrush is really cool. Really cool plugin called, I'm going to move this across, Dissemination Master. So this will retriangulate it. I'm going to freeze borders, and then I'm going to pre-process the current, and then it's going to analyze the mesh and work out where the best processes of where the triangles are going to go. So what triangulation does in the 3D world is minimize your quads and minimize the size of your file. So this is going from like a 670 million quad piece of model, and you need that to capture the detail. Like the higher your quads go, the more detail you're going to capture. But what dissemination does is then lower all those quads but maintain its detail. So you think the percentage would be like the higher you go, the more triangulation you would keep, but actually the more percentage of dissemination, the lower you go, the more it reduces the file size. So you want to go lower, and you want to disseminate current. And now if you look at it, remember before it was all quads, it's triangulated again, right? And now look at that. It's so I'm pretty happy. I think that's that's going to print out well. I am about to find out. We're going to find out if it does. So I'm going to re-put this back into my save files. You can see practically I save many different iterations and many different versions of my sculpts and each individual arm that I've been working on and so forth. It's saying replace. I don't want to replace that one. I'm going to put remeshed in there so I know which one that is. So that way I get to keep the other one. And then what I'm going to do is bring back mesh mixer. And bring in the sword, original sword remeshed. What that's going to do, and you can see this little red point, it means there's a problem with the mesh, right? But the good thing about Mesh Mixer is that it does auto repairs. So it's going to find out these issues, and look at that, boom. And really then when that goes to print out, I'm not going to have any issues with that failing. So now I literally have to go in and I need to go to transform, and we're going to put this into his hand where it should be, and I believe it is on this side because the other side is the bow, and then that's the other problem solving that I need to work out is that aspect. Okay, so I'm going to put this back in where it came from. So I've changed a little bit on this because it was designed to be printed in pieces now, not in one whole piece. So it wasn't designed, but that doesn't mean this isn't going to be able to work. I need to now just make it work. So I'm going to leave this thumb here, and I think that's going to be a good support for the sword at the end of the day. So yeah, that's make sure it's not going through the front fingers. No, it's holding up pretty well there. Okay, very good. Now I'm going to grab my body and now my sword, and I'm going to combine them. And then while that is combining, I'm going to go back to here, and I'm going to import. I am going to import the bow I made for him. So most of the bow is pretty good. I'm going to go look for the original bow. Let's see if I can find original sword, original bow. Is the original bow fixed? No. So I bring in the original bow. That'll overwrite that one, and I'm going to put it in. So most of the bow is actually pretty good, and it prints fine. The where it's not printing fine is this area up here, and once again, if you look at the mesh, it is super thin, and that's where the issue lies. So we're going to repeat the same kind of process here with kind of filling in. Now I've really lowered the intensity of it, and you know what, this one might actually work pretty well without me having to do too much, because that's a really deep detail in there. So it's closing it out nice, and it's maintaining that detail. So it's something that I'm probably not going to have to, and I am just going to go around, just give a little bit of thickness in some of these areas that I think had issues. I know why it's doing this. It's got back face masking on. No, it doesn't. So I'm going to give some thickness here, here, and all up in here. So you can see it just closes that detail in. You know, I actually like the look of that. And then I'm going to come in and smooth it again, and it's going to kind of reopen it, but it's going to maintain that thickness. so I don't really lose that detail. Okay, I'm going to do both sides to match. Okay, I think that's actually going to resolve that issue. Down here I do notice it's a little thin, even though it did print out, and it printed out pretty good. I'm just going to reinforce it while I'm here doing this anyway. So I'm going to check the mesh triangulation, because it might not actually cause too much damage. Like, this piece didn't need as much problem solving. That's the last as the sword. The sword definitely had a lot more issues involved. So yeah, I like that. Yeah, just need to expand that, and I think just that alone, it's going to print. So before it was so thin, this would literally print some of it, and then the inside was missing. That's why in some of the videos you're going to see of this particular sculpture, you're going to see the bow half printed and whatnot. So I'm going to clean that up, a bit of that, and then I am actually just going to check the triangulation on this to see how much kind of damage. Yeah, it's kind of got this weird thing of expansion, so it is highly probable that so I'm going to go back to Dynamesh, and I'm going to Dynamesh it again, and then see what this is going to do is just re-quad it all, everything, So if I go on that now, you're going to see it's got a whole bunch of cleaner quads on it. See that? It's kind of just captured it, and while I'm at that process, I might as well try and capture some of those details again, and go to deformation and polish by feature and polish crisp edges, and you just do it a few times like that, and voila. I like that bow. And then we're going to go over to dissemination master. And practically, yes, this is the process. So when you do high level detail sculptures, for it to be printable, you go down, and after you've done all of that, you have to go through the pre-process of dissemination each piece, and then disseminating it, reducing its file size. If you try to load large files with so many quads into a 3D printing program and slicer, it just is not going to work. So it is definitely a necessary process. So it's done that. It's done it pretty quick. And then I'm going to export that. Export original bow, remeshed. Export it. It's exported it pretty quick. I'm going to go back into Mesh Mixer, and I am going to import. So Mesh Mixer is done, or it was owned by someone else, but Autodesk, I think I bought it up. It is still a free software. Anyone interested in 3D printing, I highly recommend using it, because its cleanup abilities, its abilities to hollow out your sculpts and all of that is priceless. Really, it's really a great piece of software, and it's free. You don't have to pay for it. So you can see I've got one little red dot that's in there. I'll just move it into place. There's no reason not to have it in his hand as it tries to compute. So I'm going to take a quick closer look at this. Yeah, I think that's nicely in his hands, where it should be. Just make sure it's not going through anything else, and it is, which is the disc, and I'm going to pull that back in there, and yeah, that's pretty good. It's going to be an interesting piece to so that's going through his hand a little bit. I don't want any gaps. I want to make sure it's actually touching all these fingers, and it is. It can go through the mesh, because that's fine. Right, so that's in his hands. We're going to clean up this mesh, Analyst, Inspector. It's expecting, it's telling me where the issues are, and just automatic fix, and voila, it's absolutely flawless. So I'm going to grab the body again, grab that, and I'm going to go into edit and combine. And now I really want to bring in a Nuntashash and shrink them together, but just for the sake of the video, I'm going to show you exactly what we're doing, and how we're going about that. I unfortunately see something wrong with the conch shell back there. I should have really checked that before. Anyway, so it's taking a little bit to combine. Let me just go back into Zbrush while it's doing that and show you one of the pieces that I also plan to print out, and this one is going to be a interesting sculpt. I'm just going to open a new file, and the one I already have open. No, I don't want to save. I want to go to Demon Hunter. So this is a piece I sculpted. It was one of my first really complicated pieces. I just wanted to test all my skills out, and see how long it would take me. And it took me quite a while because it's heavy with work, and I only had an hour here and there to put it all together. And so I practically just wanted to see how many subtools I could create and how detailed I could go into a sculpt, and I was pretty happy being my very first. Let me just see if I can get a close-up look. And I know, and I think I could do a lot better now after the many years of doing it. But you can see the level of detail I've gone in with this Demon Hunter sculpt. I'm a big fan of the samurai culture, of the Japanese culture, and the samurai specifically, of the warrior. I'm a big martial art fan, big done that for years. So a lot of my art pieces are gonna capture the fan. The dragon plate. I do see challenges in trying to get this 3D printed. I'm aware of that. Like how thin this plate is. I'm gonna have to kind of weld it to the actual, the armor here and the vest. I've got similar issues up here, so I will see, the process of doing this and if it's worth it, or just actually going and redoing a completely new one from start to finish, which would make a great video, and build it with the 3D, being able to 3D print it in mind. So that is definitely an option. So, and it would be absolutely fun. So sculpting all this stuff is just fun. It's it's not something that you dread to do. Oh, I have to sculpt today. Yeah, that's one of the other pieces. All these little details that I've sculpted in this. I wish I'd kept a progress, because in Zbrush you can literally capture your time lapse, and that, but you got to push that button for it to work. It takes a lot of memory, that's why I don't like doing it. But yeah, I think it'd be really cool to get these two printed out, on stand, and then in a bronze or a silver. I think it'd be an unreal piece of work. Look at that nice posture, pose there. yeah, I was very happy how this turned out in this piece. Really like to bring it out into the real world, but it does present a lot of problems. All this Dynamesh hair and everything that's in the back here. I definitely have to refigure all that out before I even consider getting this thing into a 3D printer slicer to begin with. But anyway, we'll see where that goes. So yeah, so now that's all there. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to see what kind of issues come about from combining a mesh like this, and if there's any problems doing it. So I'm just going to edit. I don't want to prolong the video and make you wait for 6 hours and analyzing this thing. But so you got a whole bunch of repair stuff, and I'm curious to see if it is capable of fixing such a dense mesh put together. So it's recomputing defects, and let's see what it does. Did it fix it? Doesn't look like it's fixed it. Oh no, still calculating. And this is one of the big aspects and the big problems with doing all the modeling work and everything in 3D. Like, you really need a good computer with high memory for this to work. You have a lot of wait time in all of this. Look at that, it made my hands vanish. It got rid of the armor back here. You can see there's actually some pretty big issues, and that's something I'm going to have to resolve later. So at least I know where the issues are. So, but all I want to do right now is show you the concept and the idea of it, and I will tell you how I resolved those issues with those particular pieces. It's really funny because all of this stuff was, that's what I've done. I've gone back into Zbrush and I've redone all the arms and stuff like that. So I might just bring in those pieces at an individual level, and then re-put it back together. So let me see here. I'm going to transform this, and I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. So I think that's a pretty good size. 63 high, and I can take it down here. I don't have to worry about the bottom because my actual slicer for the 3D printer will fix where this sits on the bed. I'm going to leave a little bit off the edge, a little room on the side there. Actually, I probably I got the arms there as well. I'm going to accept that. Everything takes time. There's a spinning beach ball of death. I think out of all the processes of why it can take so long to sculpt something in Zbrush or in Maya, is literally waiting for this thing to do its computing. It's you can take anywhere from 5 minutes to 15 minutes, and you do this a few times within a sculpt. Your process is going an hour, 2 hours, just waiting for this little beach ball to calculate its processes. So that is something to consider when you get involved in all of this stuff. Is that you do waste a lot of time. You waste a lot of time trying to figure out what your computer's up to, and and then sometimes you get issues too, like it just freezes on you. It just collapses. Okay, so I'm going to duplicate it. And so there's another beach ball of death. And if you actually calculate the time this is all taking, I think it was only 2 minutes on the last one. This is another 2 minutes. It's 4 minutes, and then you work it out. You're sitting here for a good hour of spinning death. So when in the meantime, that's why usually if I'm doing this, I will be working on another project. And trying to do something else, but understanding that by doing that I'm taking up computer memory. It's good to have two computers if you can afford two computers. So back here, store computing. When something's computing, it doesn't come back on. So yeah, I'm actually I'm looking forward to putting all this together, and then making videos. I mean, from sculpt to mold to casting in metals. That's going to be the best part of it. That's going to be the best part of it. Yeah, look at this. I'm still dealing with the spinning death. Yeah, I guess I'll cut this out. So when I come back, it'll be 2 seconds for you. So. Oh, did you see that? Did you see that? Is that? Oh, no, it worked. It just. So now I'm going to transform that. So welcome back. That was like literally 2 seconds for you, and probably about 5 minutes for me. And you see, I will do this, and I'm going to print out a whole bunch of little miniatures like this. So it's going to be another one. It's going to be another one down here, and then I will print the other Ananta that goes with this. And over here I will show you what it actually fully looks like. I'm sure you might have seen it in some of the other videos, but let me just bring this up. I'll change the screen. I can't remember which one it was. Is it this one? Nope, definitely not that one. Maybe it's this one. There it is. So yeah, so Ananta is the snake in the back there, Balaram. And so I'll be printing him along with remember that's 2, along with Lord Nrsimhadev. So yeah, I will leave you there, because it's just repeating the same process, duplicating, moving across, and then being able to print it out in this wax, wax-like resin that is going to be able to allow us to cast it in metals straight away without the process of molding it. So that's going to be awesome fun. So, and yeah, but okay, no worries. Thank you for watching. I hope you got some information from this, and I enjoyed sharing what we're up to. So yeah, I'll catch you in the next video. Please hit subscribe if you even like what we're doing, and hit the like button, and yeah, I'll catch you in the next video.